One, two, mic check.
We're on. Hi,
Hello,
Kesha.
Savannah. Hello, Savannah. Hello, hello, hello.
Hello, hello.
Another edition of Kandily Kesha. Woo! We're coming off of a long weekend. Well, for me personally, anyway. Listen, I hope you all had a great weekend. Tonight, I asked for a representative of Better Savannah, John McMasters, who's coming off of an awesome celebration of their 100th episode. And they hosted a celebration at the front porch. And so I asked him to come on and talk about Better Savannah and the plans that we have going forward. And then we're going to jump into some debate recap with a couple of folks tonight. So, John, without further ado, let's talk about first the inspiration for starting Better Savannah. What is Better Savannah and what is in store for Better Savannah's future?
Well, Kesha, thanks for inviting me on tonight. You're doing a great job. You look wonderful. You're, ever present and constantly in motion. So you're young and up to the task. So I just encourage people to go to Better Savannah Facebook page, and you can see the entire hour and 10-minute live podcast discussion, of which you were one of the guests, along with Senator Lester Jackson. And we cover the whole origins of Better Savannah and discuss some policy issues. So it was a great evening, and I was delighted that it turned out that way. About 50 people in attendance, which what was important to me, because I didn't know if 5, 15, or 50 people were going to come out. So
good feeling. I'll tell you that you all really have inserted a vibe in politics in Savannah that is immeasurable in terms of what we are accustomed to. I think when I think about Better Savannah, when I think about ATR, what I think about most is the fact that you all have helped to frame a different narrative from what we hear from mainstream media. And we all know why that's important. And I could imagine that that was one of the inspirations for starting Better Savannah.
Yes, it was. And to your credit and to Julius Hall's credit with ATR, we are single-handedly getting to a narrative that before 2018 or 19, you couldn't find it. It was hard to find. The truth, the real perspective on policy just was hard to get or didn't exist. So, the fact that ATR, which is heavily, African American in its nature, and us, infinitely white in ours, we have been able to come together, talk about community, talk about, is Savannah a commodity or a community? We collectively and forcefully challenge the longstanding narrative that we've been getting forever and ever from the Savannah Morning News and the local TV station. So we are independent yet synced in our missions to advance an alternative narrative that is more like the truth. So
it's mentioned that ATR in its scope in terms of the audience and the member associated platforms are primarily African American, and on Better Savannah, white. But from where I'm sitting, John, the one thing that gives me so much pride and encouragement is the fact that you all have uniquely integrated the platforms in a way in which we are rising above race. And when I say uniquely integrated, you yourself are one of the first members of the Weeping Time Coalition. Better Savannah, I would venture to say, have endorsed more African American candidates than any others in the city. And so that's the beauty of where we have arrived as a community. I think your show in particular helps us to hone in more on policy-oriented issues as opposed to the drama and the interpersonal relations or lack thereof that oftentimes creep into politics. And so with that, we are able to really engage the electorate, educate the electorate, and inspire the electorate to get involved in the political process.
No, you're absolutely right. I watch the rabble sometimes, and I get a kick out of Charlie Brown and Chandra and Julius's back and forth. It's fun, light stuff. Sometimes Better Savannah is a little wonky and policy driven, but to your point, the fact that we are united in presenting an alternative to mainstream biased media is the real value of what both organizations are doing. And who would have thought that we would coalesce together around so much common goals. I think ATR has 3,000 followers. We're just a couple hundred away from 4,000. We do these shows without compensation. We do these shows to be helpful and to push back against that institutional narrative that has existed and controlled facts and narratives for far too long.
Yeah, and and finally, bring attention to, rather, bring into focus some of the policy-oriented issues that you all have presented and supported. Myself, as well as some other candidates during the 2019 election, talked about things such as term limits and impact fees. We talked about the Giants paying their fair share. We talked about the ports investing in the community. We talked about the need for SCAD to pony up when it comes to the property taxes. So those are some of those core issues. And so the thing I can appreciate the most is that it's not a lot of fluff, but it's a lot of those pieces related to what brings us closer to a community where all citizens of Savannah are living in harmony and not just a select few.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned those 3 or 4 key things, because those really are the structural iron in terms of the architecture of city council and the work it does in the community. I mean, the whole paradigm would be so much better if we knew that people wouldn't stay elected for 12 years, 16 years, 20 years. If residents didn't have to pay for the results of growth and annexation, that's not fair. So anyway, I see you got some other guests up on the screen. Hey.
Yes.
Hey.
Hi.
We have some very important guests with us tonight, John, and this is a pivotal moment where we can shift the conversation in terms of policy issues. But we know oftentimes policy issues bring about partisan issues. But what I want to say before we get started, I specifically asked each of you to come on tonight because you bring a different perspective to politics. Now, of course, I consider myself a public servant and not a politician, in that I have served the community from the front lines of the worst hurt citizens experience in Savannah for more than 2 decades. So it's a little bit difficult for me to be political about helping others or the way we go about. But we do know that on our state level and our federal level, we engage more in partisan politics. That is Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, if you will. And so I specifically asked each of you to come on tonight to just let's have some banter about the latest debate between Warnock and Walker, as well as possibly tonight, if you all had a chance to see the debate between Governor Kemp and the gubernatorial candidate Stacey Abrams. I personally, as
Forget
a
Mr. Hazel now. Don't forget
as
Mr. Hazel now. Mr. Hazel.
as
The
a
great
as a
interrupter. Yeah.
politician,
Yes.
I don't particularly ascribe staunchly to any particular party because from where I'm sitting in local government, this is a nonpartisan seat that I sit in, right? And so when I'm serving the citizens of Savannah, I'm not serving a Democrat or a Republican. I'm not serving a Black person or a white person. I'm not serving a gay person or a straight person. I'm serving a citizen of Savannah. And the issues related to harmony and community, related to infrastructure, the crime, your property taxes, none of that is Democrat, Republican, gay or straight, Black or white, right? And so
it's about helping the human condition,
exactly.
helping people resolve problems and elevate themselves in life, to be able to pull themselves out of poverty, out of a state of homelessness, and out of disparity. And we all try to tackle these issues. The only difference is we tackle them from different perspectives.
Mhm.
You never know which idea will work. So it's best that the people have a free medium like this one where they can hear all ideas and they have a choice. And if one idea doesn't work, you try another one. We shouldn't be antagonistic and working against one another. And I never understood that about some of these parties. We're in this together. And if we fail, our constituents suffer and we suffer. The whole state suffers.
Yeah, I'm reminded of a community adage that goes, when the elephants fight, the grass loses. And so, in terms of the fight, who are we fighting and what are we fighting for, right? So, between the debate with Warnock, I'll just start here and I'm going to let you guys take it. I just want to say that Clinton Coward, I did not introduce, is a candidate for state office 165.
I was past tense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Your political future is not over, sir. But Clinton has been a guest on my show before. We love him and support him, and I'm glad you're here tonight. But I want to just throw this out here, and I want you guys to take it away. I watched the debate between Warnock and Walker, and I found, outside of abortion, and it was one other issue that they talked about, there was nothing with teeth to it where policies were concerned in terms of change, but it was more about personal attacks and jabs at each other. But I want you all to take turns kind of giving me your assessment. And in the end, John, I want us to tie in what are some policy initiatives, what movement in the Senate, what movement can happen in the Senate that we can feel in Savannah? Guys?
All right. Well, here's my opinion. The majority of the first debate that was in Savannah was nothing but platitudes, marketing slogan, and virtue signaling.
Mhm.
Every time they brought up a pertinent subject, let's say abortion, the expansion of Medicare, Medicaid,
Yeah, that was
they didn't talk about the after effects, why to do something, what the advantages or disadvantages. They just went into insulting the other candidate on what they did or what they did not do. And the personal attacks, well, that was a waste of time. It was almost like they were both showboating rather than actually answering legitimate questions. And the one that really bothered me, I can't remember if it was in the Savannah debate or the debate on Sunday, which Walker did not show up to, only Chase Oliver and Warnock, is where they ask, how would you react or what would you do in case of a nuclear strike? And I thought, that's the most ridiculous question in the world. Once one nuclear device goes off, you're in trouble. It's too late by that point. It doesn't matter what you do or don't do, the world has been damaged. Okay, that's just my opinion.
Benjamin?
Fair assessment. First of all, Miss Keisha, thank you for having me on. John, Clinton, it's good to see you guys, man. I'm glad to be sharing the stage with some
old people.
Individuals. Well, I'm always with old people, man. Anybody who know me, you know what I'm saying? I grew up being the youngest person in the room. So, you know, I'm cool with the old people. You guys are cool with me. I don't too much like the youngins.
Well, I'm speaking as solo as the only old person on this platform. So
no comment.
As far as the debate, I think it went well. I agree with a lot of what Clinton said. It was a lot of virtue signaling and showboating, and there was some question dodging. But above all, I think it exposed a lot. First of all, why did you schedule 2 debates within 2 days of each other? Why didn't you just have the third guy on the stage with them in Savannah if that's what you guys were going to do? You know, like it was all to say, you know, look, he didn't show up to the other one. We got this empty lectern. Like it's a whole bunch of attacking going on that I don't believe is truly keeping people of Georgia in mind. And to be honest, the people of the United States, the true people, the native, the nationals, right? They have been lost a long time ago. You know, it's the people who are part of the 14th Amendment crew, right? Those corporations that are in here just placating the heck out of this country and using it as their own little piggy bank, military, security,
Yeah,
you know, apparatus. But dealing with, you know, where we are now, getting off of that deepness and getting to where we are now. I think the people truly saw that, you know, you have what you thought was a person of the people who's truly an elitist, that is an elitist at this point, doing what elitists do, taking to emotions, running their checkup, hiding away from, you know, the things that they have done in life, while putting someone else's up. Personally, I'll go ahead and attack. I'm me. I don't see how a pastor or reverend or whatever, you know, the name is that he chooses, could be attacking someone based on the past. That just, I can't get with that, like, political movement. Like when you're a reverend and you're calling yourself the senator reverend, you would think that you were there to do right of the people, no matter if there's someone bad, reprimand them for their bad, but help them get past their bad to their good, get them their atonement, get them right with God, right? Because this country is built on the principles of Judeo-Christian values of having God laced all through it. Get them right with God to be a better person of this community, of this state, make the state better. And I see where Herschel, despite whatever past he may have had, he seems to be wanting to have some type of atonement. You know, people are attacking him for being an athlete. We know this is what athletes do, especially someone who plays gladiator sports. We know they're a little off, man. They get their head bashed for a living, you know? So let's worry about that. Let's listen that, hey, man, this dude do have some head issues. He's admitted in his past, and now he's trying to fix and do better and be a better role model. I think that's the right story. I think to be beating him up, you know, to be a Trump supporter and be the guy who's, oh, he's a big bully, you know, to be bullied by the people who call me a bully. See, like, there you go. Herschel is an idiot. How? The man's truly successful. Okay. You know what I'm saying? He's had some stumbles in his past, but he's fixing it. That's the problem right there. It's that vitriol that we're throwing at each other. We need to be focused on getting rent lower in Savannah and in Georgia and making sure people have homes and making sure that healthcare, whether it's big pharma or holistic, whatever it is, going to make sure that a person is living the best of their ability. These are things that we need to be working on fixing. I've heard a lot of both debates talking about crime and how youth violence is a problem. Well, let's do more things to get these youth interested into the jobs that we need in Georgia and in the Southeast region and in the United States and amongst the world to make this place better. But to just continuously just attack, and berate. I mean, it's crazy, and I'm guilty of it. You know, I do attacking and beratement, but shoot, I was attacked for the last 5 years. Like after a while, you know, it's kind of like, okay, I'm gonna throw a little bit back, but we have to be better, and I want to be better. But help us all be better by being better to each other, man. Let's focus on the people.
I think the mistake they made in the debate is they didn't even articulate a basic plan on how to address crime. Okay,
Mhm.
now they kind of, attack the police academies and their selection process. They could have talked about reforming the psychological evaluations and making them a priority before any candidate can go in. As well, they could have talked about, you know, making officers more connected with the neighborhoods. We talked about community policing in several elections, not just in this one. Um, but like you said, people, you, me, everyone, we sometimes get caught up in our personal back and forth, and we forget, hey, here's a problem. Let's have at least a basic idea how we want to resolve it. And they
Right.
really did that.
So, John, I want you to weigh in here. That point, Clinton, when we talk about issues that they could have talked about outside of the abortion issues and the expansion of Medicaid and medication for diabetes, I think about public housing, right? You know, we have a huge public housing crisis here in Savannah. Gun violence. We have a huge issue with gun violence in Savannah. And then accountability when it comes to the allocation of federal subsidies. We know that we have a huge issue with that in Savannah. And so, John, one of the questions that you asked on your show, I don't know if it was you or Chuck, maybe, but it led me to respond in this way. And that was politicians who are running for state offices or offices on our federal level should not come to our city and not address the most pressing issues facing our community. And that goes back to policy. It goes back to paying attention to what's happening in Savannah. And in some regard, I feel like all of the candidates have been a little bit tone deaf to Savannah. John?
Well, uh, um, these federal candidates and state broad office candidates, governor, attorney general, secretary of state, um, they really don't have the time, and perhaps they should make the time to understand the nuances of Athens or of Macon or of Augusta or of Savannah. They have a, a set speech and talking points that will that stays purposely broad so that they can sound knowledgeable when they're in each of those individual cities. But would it be nice if they were better versed in the situation and environment that they're visiting and addressing? Absolutely. um, uh, to Ben's comment about Warnock and his pastoral titles and presence, I'm a big believer in separation of church and state. I don't need any more uh, emphasis or attachment to the pulpit in political campaign rhetoric. Um, I'm a heathen from California, agnostic, atheist, whatever you want to project onto California is fine. Um, so I don't need any more of that from Warnock. I will, to be concise in the debate at Plant Riverside, the expectations got so low, and this was our mistake. Our expectations for Herschel Walker were, a lot of people said he's not even going to show up. He's going to have a flat tire. He's going to have a migraine. He's going to yada yada. He's just not going to even show up. So all of a sudden, poof, he shows up. So he's got a leg up just by showing up before he even says the first sentence. Warnock, everybody had the expectations of the Mother Emanuel, MLK orator, par excellence, and the guy was flat. He was just off, and that's okay. But again, my point is our expectations of Herschel were so low. The fact that he showed up and could make a complete sentence, it kind of wasn't impressive to certain people. Not to me, but I can see why certain segment of the audience said, "Wow, he actually came and he actually said a few things." And Warnock just didn't have, he had a 195 batting average that night. It was an off night for him. I don't know. I will tell you, and then pass it back to you guys, is the big issue that does not get addressed either in the Atlanta Press Club gubernatorial debate tonight or the Warnock Herschel Walker thing is wages. And wages in Savannah suck. They are far too low. They are why we have a chronic multi-decade poverty rate twice the national average. So to your point, Kesha, if these guys could carve out one local thing to talk about to anchor themselves and have authenticity when they come visit us, they ought to be talking about wages.
Right. And to wages, in addition to wages, you have to talk about homelessness. A lot of the reason why we have the homeless issue that we have in Savannah is because we're confined by some federal regulations that preclude us from doing something about it. Right. And then we also have this. I go back to the issue of housing, particularly public housing. The very street that Warnock had named for himself, or that our council's majority voted for, is at Caton Homes. And so we named a street after a senator who is running for public office, where you have a gym that is currently being used for storage.
Yeah.
Where
your point is that it was a ceremonial big deal and there was nothing substantive, and there right on the street are all the problems for you to see and discuss. I get it.
What I want people to check out of. I do not want citizens to become so engaged in politics and become so enamored with politicians that we lose sight and we lose focus of what it is really going to take to make a difference in our community. Now, I would differ with you all when it comes to pastors and politics and them running for political office. I think they are probably the most suited. The problem that I have is that when they enter into this arena, they become more political than religious. And so, pastors are on the front lines of the worst hurt that citizens experience. Their churches are the ones that are paying people's rent and light bills and nurturing them and consoling them when they lose a loved one, particularly to gang violence, or if a mother is in a domestic violence situation. Many pastors have absorbed so much hurt and so much pain. I would think that a political platform would be a right and ready place for them to arrive there and do the right thing. And that's what's so tough for me in politics, because I was on the front lines of the worst hurt citizens face in our community. And coming to this political platform, my whole goal is to shift and to not play a game, but to change the game and give government back to the people. I really appreciate y'all's assessment tonight of the candidates and what your thoughts were. How many of you had the opportunity to see the Kemp and Stacey Abrams debate?
Haven't seen it yet. I'm gonna try to watch it tonight. But I want to bring something up.
Go ahead.
A lot of the reason that the homelessness, I think, is increasing in Savannah, we have neglected the emotionally and the mentally handicapped and the disabled. A lot of the homeless people are stricken with either a pre-existing emotional or mental condition or a post emotional and mental condition. And now that we have reduced the facilities that they can go to or where they can be cared for, that increases the homeless rate.
Yeah.
I don't think we can keep
Another
it
thing that
problem.
contributes to it, Clinton, is this council. Our council has voted time and time again to give developers and to give the Savannah College of Art and Design carte blanche on some of our most vulnerable real estate in Savannah, like Chatham Apartments, like Clearview. You know, those people didn't have a place to go. I would venture to say to you that a small percentage of them are the individuals that we now see on the streets of Savannah.
Absolutely.
I agree.
233 apartments gone.
Yeah, yes, like that.
Now, a lot of people, I just drives me crazy when they say, "Oh well, if you ever went by there or in there, it smelled, it was disorderly, people were lounging around outside." You know what? That's better than them living under
Exactly.
the
Yeah,
bridge. Okay,
yeah.
they had a home. Could the Housing Authority of Savannah and the operators of Chatham Apartments kept the building up, painted it a little bit, cleaned it a little bit, make it a nicer home? Absolutely. That's not the tenant's fault. They paid their rent.
And
They got short shrift,
you're right.
which is also classic here in Savannah. I mean, we don't even. Most cities say if a tenant comes to you with a housing voucher, a Section 8 voucher, you have to accept them if they meet all your other qualifications. Here, this, mostly African American, progressive in air quotes, city council, you guys don't have an ordinance that says landlords have to accept it.
Right.
They can reach
And
somebody.
you're right. If there was greater transparency, the people in Savannah would have known that these facilities were not being maintained and were not being kept up. And the people that did like live in the Chatham Apartments would have better living conditions. But we can't keep reducing the places where they can live and where they can survive. Otherwise, this homeless condition is going to become far more severe.
Yes.
I will say on the debate, Kesha, with the Atlanta Press Club, Stacy was taking it to Kemp pretty well, particularly with gun registration and background check. She said to Kemp, instead of sending us an aggressive patrol unit from the Georgia State Patrol to augment our shortage in the police department, why don't you just give these cities some of that $5 or $6 billion that you're sitting on to augment our own budget so we can get permanent people? We appreciate the short-term offer, but you got a bundle of money from the federal government. Let us use it for public safety needs because we're having a hell of a time getting our department staffed up. So there were some good things. Classroom stuff. Kemp was. I was waiting for him to say I support vouchers. He didn't quite go that far, but he made a point that he wants to pass a bill called the Parents' Bill of Rights that I guess if you don't like what your kid is being taught in school, you can move them someplace. I have no idea what this legislation is going to portend. But
it's a half measure of school choice. I have yet to see this debate, so don't give me too many spoilers. Yeah.
Well, I'll leave some mystery for you there.
Adams, you wanna close us out?
Sure, sure. So the debate between the two, I mean, it was what we expect. Between Kemp and Abrams, a bunch of attacking each other. There were some solid things that I heard from arguably both of them. Particularly, it's funny that Abrams, and I don't know if it's plantating because she knows that there's certain people who are just walking away from her in general, so she had to throw out the things that sound good, like the agriculture. Georgia's number one economic thing being agriculture, even though we know it's definitely ports and tourism. But hey, agriculture. um when just last time she was attacking, saying, hey, we don't need more farmer jobs, we need to diversify the economy of Georgia. So I found that pretty interesting. The whole hitting at the using the surplus to spend it on certain things, like once you run through the money, then what? There are a lot of things that we can attack as far as like crime that doesn't take all of that money. A lot of us, we make do with what we have. We don't have all of that money, but we have problems that we have to solve, and we make do with what we have. And I think with the monies that we have now, if we actually use the monies properly, and actually sought to fix problems, I think we could do a lot better. But the problem is, why fix the problems truly? Because if I fix the problems truly, then there's no need for you to vote for me again in 4 years or 8 years. So this is something that I'm going to continuously run on, continuously push, get beat up on. I heard Kemp stand there and talk about the throwing the police and the forces that he's created, but he didn't mention the bills like House Bill 213. That was the Georgia Youth Gang Prevention and Intervention Act. That was a bipartisan bill put forth here from the Chatham County delegation to get um signed by Kemp, and Kemp stood behind it and signed it to do things to study why are kids getting into the troubles they're getting into. What types of programs can we do to actually deter these things from happening, or these kids getting into these gangs, or even these kids who are in gangs and transitioning out of these gangs. And I kudos to Representative Carl Gilliard, who spearheaded that event and allow us from the community of Savannah to spearhead and bring forth different ideas that we've tried and we've continuously trying. We just had a lock-in that was put on by the city of Savannah and Representative Gilliard and his various organizations, because these things work. I found it pretty interesting that Stacey Abrams is talking about gun violence um and gang violence and things that are going on, but she sat on stage with a guy who definitely contributes with the gang violence and the problems that are going on in Atlanta, Georgia, and even in some other places. It's all about placating to the vote. That's what these people do. When it comes to affordable housing, like, yes, there's an affordable housing problem, and there can be some ways to stem this from governmental level, but we have to fix this inflation problem. We have a major inflation problem that is to no fault of Georgians, but I think we get less and less off the federal government teat, which I applaud the governor for not really tapping into a lot of that federal money, although it could be
I was
used for good
saying
things.
a lot of it though, Ben, is because Kemp doesn't accept it.
Yeah, he doesn't accept it. And I can there are so many attachments and things. Although that money is for us, Shane Hazel said it perfectly today. It's taxation, it's theft, it's the people's money. But when that money comes along, although there shouldn't be any strings attached to it, there's always some kind of strings attached to it. There's always some kind of way this money has to be spent, or somewhere this money has to go that isn't right. I heard Stacey Abrams talk about government contracts and why contractors don't, or minority contractors don't get contracts in the state of Georgia. Well, I can tell you from a minority contractor point of view in the city of Savannah, Georgia, that there are problems with contracts, but I can't say that it's the Republicans that are causing problems. And I'll tell you more about that real soon, but it's not Republicans.
Our city council supposedly is all Democratic in terms of their
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes.
Mm-hmm.
And the way we have voted, well, I would say the majority, it primarily benefits individuals who ascribe to the Republican Party. So it's a game, family, Savannah. It's all a political game. And what
Yeah.
I am to do is to help you not be one of the victims of the political process, but we want you all to carve out space in our community where you take your rightful place in government and let these politicians know that you are not interested in the games that they're playing with your life and with your money. So with that, John, you're looking like you want to say something.
Yeah, I do. I just wanted to, you're reading my mind, Kesha. Benjamin, you're an interesting cat because 1 minute I'm loathing your cynicism, and then 5 minutes later I'm going, yeah, the dude's right. So we'll have to talk more about.
I was really strategic. I was really strategic and excited about this panel tonight, and I definitely want us to have more dialogue. But more than anything, what you all are helping us to understand and helping people who are listening to us tonight to understand that it is not all about party affiliation. No. It's not all about race. It's not all about sexual orientation and gender, but it's about harmony, fairness, and equity in government, and honesty, transparency, and accountability. And those are all measures that are under attack when it comes to our local government. So listen, guys, I trust that when you receive the call again, you'll come. This is exciting conversation. I promised you that I wasn't going to keep you, so I want you to come back. And I know you had another guest that was going to come on with you also, Ben, but we'll have him back as well.
Most definitely. Thank you for having me, man. And John, you know I love you, brother.
I know.
Listen, thank you all, and good night. I love you, Savannah and Clinton. I'll see you maybe Wednesday, sir.
All right, Wednesday. Right.
Thank you, guys.
Good night, y'all.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Like this.